Hey friends, this is Mark Suroviec, host of the Workplace Solutions podcast, inviting you to discover the joy of work. All right, so we are here recording part 2 of our conversation, Lessons for Leaders, with Dr. Dub Darville. I'm not going to make you do another icebreaker question. I want to make sure we've got a bunch of good content. I've really enjoyed our conversation so far.
Thank you.
We kind of left off with the differences between academic leadership, not-for-profit leadership, leading volunteers. So let's look at it from the other lens. What is the same in all those contexts? What are things that leaders need to do or think about or understand to be successful?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. I will try to be succinct, though I make no promises.
Hey, we love your stories. You tell as many stories as you want to.
Okay. The things that are common and should be common, no matter field, there needs to be a genuine concern for people. Not just the outcome, not just having the best, the most profitable year ever in business. That's great, and nobody's going to argue about it. But what collateral damage might there be? So I would say that would be one thing. I think the other thing would be having a very clear vision of where you need to go and what are the steps that may get you there. And I don't think those steps are very clear to a leader until they bring others under them in and say, for example, if I'm the leader, next year, I really would like to add a new degree program. I'll use that. What do you think? And I would give each person opportunity, yay, nay, and why yay, nay, and make sure that they understood I'm not making a decision today. I just need to know where are you in terms of thought when it comes to this. And then I will always ask them, what do you think are the pitfalls of doing this? It may sound like a great idea, but does it require, let's say, an additional faculty member? Well, if that's the case, where is that money coming from? And of course, you've got the administration to deal with and whatever else. But, what are the pitfalls? Are there enough students who might want this? It will do you no good to have the major if one person shows up. That's not going to do that. And I think then following that would be, in addition to graduating, we assume, qualified students to go into the workplace, what benefits community-wide might we see by doing this? And I give them all opportunity. I've had some who say, do you want an honest answer? And in my catty self at the moment, I'll say, nah, give me a fake one.
When they do that, Dub, what I would hear in that is that they're trying to see if you legitimately are both safe and have the integrity to really say, yes, I do want that. I'm not that leader that needs a yes man.
I don't want yes people. I don't want yes people. And so I always say, absolutely, I want an honest answer. And to show them that I mean that, I always have my pen or pencil and a tablet, and everything that they say, I write down. And, and there's always a little bit of a hesitancy, and you can tell on their part, is this going to come back to bite me at some point? I make sure that never, ever happens. I don't want them to ever feel like because they told me that was the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, I take them to lunch. We do all kinds of things because I want them to know that, yes, I really do want an honest answer. And I look at it from the perspective of my superiors have charged me with a particular job. And that is not just managing an academic part. That is a role, but no leader is a leader if all they're doing is managing. Because managing assumes a status quo. Everything just rocks along. I'm a boat rocker. I just am. And every time I've ever gone in and they ask me if I would like to be this, that, or the other, my question to them is, how comfortable are you with change? And I always get this, what do you mean? If you're asking me to come in and continue to do the same thing for the next 20 years, I'm not your person. Things change. People change. Times change. Degrees change. Jobs change. That kind of thing. I don't like rocking the boat for the sheer sake of rocking the boat. But I know enough about stagnant water to know that it is never good. And that's what managing and just floating along reminds me of. At some point, you lose touch with what's really going on. So asking them what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what do they think, and then I don't make a decision. I will summarize that. I will send it to them in some sort of communique and say, I'd like for us to gather back at our next monthly faculty meeting. And I'd like for us to really give some thought to this. There have been times where we've gotten together and go over all of that. And I said, I've really been thinking about this. This may not be the best time. I think we may need to wait, and here's why. Or, thank you very much for your input. It's been invaluable. I see more positives than negatives. I do think there's a hurdle that we have to overcome that so-and-so pointed out, and I'm glad they did. So let's take a look at, is it possible to overcome that without costing us, the college, whatever, an arm and a leg? So making sure that they always feel included. One of the things that bothers me about some leaders, they'll invite you to the table, but you sit. There's no... It's like, why
am I really
here?
at the table if I'm a passive observer?
Exactly. It's kind of being invited to a dinner, and you sit. The only problem is there's a plate of food, but you have no utensils with which to eat. Why am I here? It's the same sort of thing. And
I'm going to borrow some of these metaphors.
I hope you will. I hope you will. One of the things that bothers me immensely is being made to feel as if I am important in terms of having something to bring to the table, but it never materializes. Or when asked and I give my opinion with appropriate backup data, whatever, every time, the leader does something completely the opposite. And so then it's, don't ask me. So I cannot tell you, I cannot emphasize enough. If you do not take other people into true consideration, you're never going to go anywhere. And you're going to go there fast, which is not good for you, for them, the institution, or whatever.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm processing through it in light of the book I'm reading right now, which is Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath. Love the Heath brothers. They've got Made It Stick, The Power of Moments, a bunch of great books, but they're talking about things that folks do that lead to bad decisions and not considering the opportunity cost, not having that devil's advocate to say, what if we didn't do this? Or people don't normally take the opportunity cost into account. I'm really excited and just I'm learning a lot in this conversation, so I'm thankful for that.
Good. I really had thought about searching for sayings that I've heard and thought, and I finally dismissed that idea because I would be too tempted to just read them. And there is one, and I really do wish I had this one, but it had to do with a leader who always made the decisions by themselves or invited people to the table, did what they wanted to do anyway, and then were amazed when they turned around and there was nobody there. On a level, we all kind of go, well, yeah. I think the one term that I probably like above all would be being a servant. Because if that's the case, then I'm not making it about me. I'm making it about the place for which I work, but I'm also making about the people that I happen to be leading. I just happen to be the facilitator in the middle to get these people to somehow come on board for us to accomplish that, which begs the question, how clearly have expectations been given to me as whatever level I happen to be as a leader. If that is not present, then why would people wonder when things don't happen the way they had anticipated? Just saying, and I cannot communicate to those under me. Here is the overall goal. How do we get there? Now, obviously, senior management, they don't have a crystal ball either. And so they come up with this overarching plan. And that's fine. My question is, where did you come up with that plan? How did that surface? Is it just something that you pulled out of the air?
And depending on how connected they are to the rest of the organization, what they're pulling could be just a mess or legitimate.
And I would say, how connected are you to the real world? We all have this notion of a Garden of Eden and this panacea place, and just everything's lovely and da-da-da-da-da-da. I say one of the reasons roses are sought after and are beautiful is because of the thorns. You got to go through a lot of pain to get a rose. I don't avoid thorns. To me, that makes the goal all worth all the more. So how clearly is your senior management connected to what is actually going on? And whether that's the business world, the not-for-profit world, or the academic world, if you have isolated yourself from what is actually transpiring in the world, I don't care what plan you come up with, it is not going to be successful, because what is it attached to? Which kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning in your definition. One of the things you need to do is connecting so that it improves. I think that's a part. So if they don't tell me exactly what they want, I can't communicate that to the professors and students under me.
I know mentoring is something you're very passionate about. You've mentored a lot of young men over your career. You invest in their lives. So just tell us a little bit about mentoring and what that means to you.
I am passionate. In fact, I am more passionate about mentoring than I am just about anything else. And my deal with them from the very beginning is we're going to talk about hard things. And if you're uncomfortable with all of this and you don't want it, that's okay. No hard feelings. I don't carry grudges. And what I have discovered over however many years now, particularly with young men, I have found that they generally do not have role models that they can look at and say, yes, that is the type of person I want. And that they're close enough to those people to do that.
That's intriguing. It's not just that they can't identify the role model. It's that they don't have that person in their life with enough of a relationship to matter. Okay.
No access. Have fathers at home, but the fathers have not been, they've been physically present, but not emotionally present. Some don't have fathers at home for whatever reasons. They come from, a variety of backgrounds. This is a down deep emotional heart thing that these young men realize they're a male. What they don't know is, what does it mean to be a man? And so we spend a lot of time talking about, a gazillion issues. I try very hard to never ask a question that they've not given me at least a crack in the door to pursue. Occasionally, I'll come up with some off-the-wall something to let them realize I, too, am a male, a man, and I, too, was at one point where you are. You can't tell me anything that's going to shock me. And that seems to breed a little bit of relaxation in them. When I start talking about children, it becomes very obvious. They don't want to parent the way they were parented. And I think we as dads often don't really know the significance of that role that we play. And I'm very careful to make sure they understand your dad did the best he could do in the situation in which he found himself. Did he do some things wrong? I always start with that one. And of course, they can give me,
here's the list.
I've already got it. But then I say, tell me some things that your dad did right. Yes, there's crickets. But eventually, they'll come up with something. I said, gosh, that's great. How did that impact you? And so I try to let them come up with it and then try to lead them. We try to just get the basics, the more obvious out of the way about dad or mom or home or whatever the case may be. And then we leave that for a while. And I won't talk about it. So then so tell me, what do you think you would like to do or be when you grow up, get out of college, whatever? Most of them don't have a clue. And so then it's, well, tell me what excites you. What do you enjoy? Oh, they have no problems coming up with it. I love baseball. Okay, well, let's talk about that. What about it? And
we've got this great sports management program.
Well, there's always method to my madness, but yes. But helping them to discover they're really not quite as bad, maybe, or as off as they may think they are, but trying to discover what is really down deep inside of them. What are the things they love? What are the things they enjoy? What are the things that they've seen others do that excites them, that helps make them think they could make a difference? Because one of the things I have discovered is they all want to make a difference. They just don't know how. And so we talk, oh gosh, for a long time. I always bring faith into it, whether they are a Christian or not a Christian. That is not an issue of whether I take them on or don't take them on. I always talk about it from my perspective, my experience. I always talk about the difference that it made in my life. But I usually start that conversation off with, let me tell you about the relationship I had with my dad. And so I do. We spend a great deal of time talking about that. And then I tell them about the turning moment in that relationship and what it looked like and what it meant. And that now, my dad, who happens to be 91, oh my gosh, we talk every single day. It may be 5 minutes, but we talk every single day. When I think about role models now, it's him. He has demonstrated work ethic. He has demonstrated his faith. He loves my mom so much, he will sacrifice himself to whatever. And he loves us as his family. He is always asking, how are Stephen and Morgan and the kids today? And what's going on with Sarah? And, oh, did you know that Jono got this or that? And so there's always a family dynamic. My dad never used to ask my opinion on much of anything. And now, what do you think about this? What does this sound like to you? What does this mean? We have a relationship that, honestly, I cannot imagine him not being here. That will be traumatic. And I try to take advantage of every minute that I possibly can. And so I just share all of that with him to say, look, where you are is not your destination. It is just where you are. You have no idea what's ahead of you. You don't know what the world's going to look like, and neither do I. But let's see what we can do to prepare for that. And it's faith, it's work, it's people, it's whatever, and just helping them to discover. I'm hesitant to talk about people.
Okay. You don't have to mention anyone by name. No. Just one of the things we do from time to time is thank people by name, and you've already thanked your dad, so.
Well, absolutely. But I will say this. I'm not sure that my wife knew what she was getting into when she agreed to marry me. And I think she would probably tell you that too. But here's what I will say. Over the years, as who I am and what I'm about has developed, she has always given me the freedom, without question, to go and to be and to meet with and talk to and have to the house young men, recognizing that is a lifeblood for me. I will mention one person by name. That's you. And even though there has not been a long mentoring relationship, I do remember a season not quite so long ago, and I won't go into the details. And I remember you talking and me asking you point blank, what do you like? What do you want to do? And you told me, and I said, do it. And it's all of a sudden it was like, somebody actually gave me permission to do what it is that I really want to do. I always find that. And I can't tell you how many times I have shared that with various individuals. I had one young man, not you, I had one young man, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, who wanted to move to New York and try his hand at acting. I said, why'd you never go? Well, my dad this and blah, 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 blah. And I said, how old are you? And he told me, and he was well past being dependent upon income from mom and dad. And I said, what's holding you back? Well, I get all that kind of stuff. I said, gee whiz. I said, look, what's going to happen 30 years down the road if you look back and say, gosh, I wonder what would happen if? I said, what is keeping you from that truly? Personally, I think it's your fear of failure. Face it. You know people that already live in New York. It's expensive. They'd be glad to have a roommate. Here is a man that I know personally who owns an event catering and hosting company across the United States. He's always looking for people to work. And actors starting off are always starving. So he'll give you a job. So I put him in contact with all those people and I said, go, just see what happens. You may get up there and realize this is not what I want. Well, you know what? It's the best thing you could have ever done for yourself. You may get up there and things just blow up for you in a good way. You'll be thrilled. And I said, does it matter what the outcome is? The point is, you will be discovering something about yourself. Do not ever let failure or the fear of it stop you. I have found, at least in my own life too, my fear of failure, not measuring up or disappointing people or what. There are lots of things I would say, none of which are permissible on air, so to speak. But I guess the point is, who cares? It's your life that you're dealing with. So let's find out. Who are you? What do you really want to do? So this guy goes to New York and he connects with the actor and he connects with the businessman. Businessman gives him a job. And I don't know, sometime in that process, he thought, I like it, but I don't know.
But now he knows.
And now he knows. And golly, Bill, he's so free. We find that we build our own prisons based on things that we have no clue about. That bothers me. It bothers me to see people never try because they're afraid they're going to disappoint somebody. Well, nobody wants to disappoint somebody, but maybe you won't. Just because that person doesn't think that's appropriate for you, they're not God. They may think they are, but they're not. And so,
some of those terrible leaders we talked about before.
Oh, indeed. I can give you a long list of them, too. I guess my point in all of this is if I'm trying to lead somebody, whether it's in the classroom or in the business world or in a church or even in a mentoring, I have to present to them opportunities untold. I have to open up for them a world and help them to see where they might fit. I have to find a way to help them build confidence in themselves to launch out. It's scary. I get it. But my gosh, I cannot imagine anything worse than getting to the end of your life and still having regrets that you never even tried something. Best thing that ever happened to me was when I realized I liked accounting, I didn't love accounting. And I really, even though I am a CPA, God help us all if I'm going to have to actually practice that stuff. It's miserable. I don't want to do that. It's logical. It leads people to a decision or a conclusion, and I like that part of it. I love teaching. But I realized I just don't want to do this. I went back to school. That's what you always do. Then I went back to school, was working on my master's, and got an assistantship. And the person that I worked with, who turned out to be my major professor, had to be gone. And she said, I need you to take my class for about a week. I've got to go to this conference. I said, okay, what will be the topic? She told me. I said, I think I can do that. As God is my witness, I walked into that classroom, and I've never felt more at home before or since. That is my home. Am I in the classroom so much now? Not the four walls classroom, but I've made the world a classroom. I've made wherever I am a classroom. And I love teaching. My job is to teach, to share, to inform. Your job is to listen, and you can choose yay or nay. That's not on me. That's going to be on you. And I've had a lot who've chosen nay. And they are hesitant to ever see me again because they think I'm going to say, I told you so, which I actually have in some cases, but more often than not, when the pieces fall apart, I'm there to help you pick up the pieces. No shame, no regrets, no guilt, no condemnation, no nothing. Let's just put the pieces back together.
I love that. Love that, Dub.
Well, thanks.
And since you mentioned it, I'll mention it as well. Thank you for the role that you've played in my life. I know
My pleasure.
when I was considering starting the business and leaving my former employer, that you were the person that gave me the best advice out of everyone. I'm not going to say what that advice was.
Thank you.
But it was...
I vaguely remember what it was, but...
I remember,
Okay.
and I've told a lot of people,
Okay.
but I'm not going to say that on the
Okay.
air, as if this
Yeah,
is
I
the
get it.
radio.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for what you've done in
welcome.
my life, what you're doing in a lot of people's lives. So we'll wrap up with this final question. What's something that I haven't asked you that you're burning to talk about for... We'll put a cap on just a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I think the one word that I had hoped would come up in the conversation, and maybe it has in a roundabout sort of way, and that is the word integrity. I'm part of the BCIL program at Berry. I'm a mentor.
Can you define that acronym?
Let's see if I can remember what it actually is. I think it's the Berry Center for Integrity and Leadership.
Okay.
And I have 5-6 college students each year that we meet and we talk about what leadership is. And everybody's always got opinions and ideas and whatever. And we talk a lot about the same sort of stuff. But then I talk about the word integrity. And I tell them that's not something you can learn. That's not a subject that you get a class in. That's something that develops in you because you have placed value in something greater than actually yourself. For me, that is my relationship with Christ. But even for those who are not Christian, the integrity for them is I do not want, whether I stay or leave the business, for anyone to have a negative thing to say about me as an individual or my leadership or whatever because of how I acted or responded. Which, for those of us who like to talk, it's somewhat difficult because we typically talk and then we think about it. And that's not advisable. If the integrity is not there, it becomes pretty obvious very quickly, and people do not want to follow someone who has no integrity. So I think that would be one thing that is just really important to me. You need to be true. There's always a litmus test that comes, and pass or fail. There's no A, B, C, D. It's pass or fail. Pass is good, but don't get too comfortable because there's another one around the corner. Failure, you may not like it, but if you don't learn from your failure, you're destined to repeat it again and again and again and again. I guess those are some things that are just really important to me. As I share with others, whether it's the classroom or whatever, failure is not a negative unless you make it one.
That's good. I was actually reading an article this morning that listed Enron Corporation's core values, and integrity was one of them. So we're not going to go down that
As
rabbit.
in, they didn't have any, right? Okay, I'm just saying.
Their website said it was.
Yeah. Well, again,
And that was an interesting conversation piece of the difference between having a value like integrity as a poster on the wall versus actually living it out in your actions.
yes. My junior English teacher in high school had two sayings. One of which was, you people are in for a rude awakening one day. Never were truer words spoken. And the other is something that we probably all have heard is what you do speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. I tell students all the time, you can say anything you want, but if your life doesn't just spontaneously follow, people will see through that in a heartbeat, and they will run from you because they don't want any part of that. They need people who are true. And I'm just grateful the Lord's put me in places to meet people and talk to people and say, let's just come to this table and let's just sit down and let's talk about this stuff. Helping them come to a place where they can resonate. And so it's important.
Very good stuff. All right, Dub, how can folks contact you? Do you have a social media, LinkedIn? If folks wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
I am on LinkedIn. It's probably under Robert.
It is. I checked.
I am on Facebook. Those would be my two. Those would be the ways to contact me.
Any final words? Anything else you wanted to say before we sign off?
Thank you for the opportunity to just share. I probably will leave and get halfway down the road to my house and think, oh my gosh, I didn't say. But there's always opportunities. I would never want people to take what I say as gospel truth without truly investigating that at some level. You have to really kind of think about, let this ruminate. Take what I say, but think about it. If it applies to you, great. If it doesn't apply to you, don't worry about it.
Ever the professor.
Ever the professor.
Love it.
Yes.
All right. My guest has been Dr. Robert Dub Darville, and we thank you. This has been a great episode, and instead of trying to shove 43 years of leadership and wisdom into 2 episodes, we'll try to have you back on the podcast sometime if you want to.
I would enjoy that very much. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Dub.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Life is way too short for work to suck. So if you want help to build your team, train your team, or manage your team, we're here. Come see us at workplaysolutions.com. Thanks for listening to the podcast.